Yes, it is Saturday, and welcome to Living Healthy and Aging Well. My name is Ken Haglund, and today is Saturday, August 29th, 2020, and we are broadcasting live from the AM 950 radio station that overlooks beautiful Bryant Lake Regional Park, located in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Now, we're on the air every Saturday from noon to 1, and we talk about your health, your life, and we cover a wide range of topics to help you improve your quality of life. Now, we cover areas including wellness and healthcare, elder care, end-of-life care, and caregiver support issues. I am so glad to be with you today, and it is a gorgeous day here on Saturday here in Minnesota, and we hope everyone listening is doing well. We have another great show for you today. Joining me in the studio is Rich Frieder. He is the owner of Learning RX. Now, Rich's Learning RX programs help both children and adults improve focus, memory, and recall for both school and work. Now, we'll be talking today about ways to get the most out of distance learning, and we've all dealt with distance learning issues this last 6 months. And we'll also explore the root causes as to why some children excel academically while others struggle. So please stay with us today. The whole hour is dedicated to helping understand how we can help our children and help the parents with the distance learning that we're going to be dealing with here in the upcoming school year. But last week, I want to mention we had Christiane Taylor. She is the founder and owner of Healthy Eating on the Go, and her company produces high-quality protein bars. We received several calls last week about wanting to know more about her protein bars that are made right here in the Twin Cities at her shop in Burnsville. So for more information on her delicious protein bars, visit her website at healthy-onthego.com. So once again, healthy-onthego.com. That was Christiane Taylor, and that was a fun show last week, and what a wonderful person. We also are still receiving some calls here from the show he did with Judy Praska. She's the owner of Fast Test Labs of Bloomington. For more information about her testing services, give her a call at 952-999-9490 or visit her online at fasttestlabs.com/Bloomington. So it's Fast Test. And people got confused here. It's FASTESTLABS.com. And just to remind you, she has several tests, and they're very, very reasonably priced tests here that can help identify what you need to eat, how to exercise, and what nutrients your body needs. And those tests are based entirely on your unique genetic profile. She has other tests that can identify if you have food or pet sensitivities, as well as can help you define what your best skincare program is based upon your unique DNA. So again, if you have questions about that, you can reach her at 952-999-9490. And I want to thank all of you that leave messages on our radio show phone line. We really appreciate hearing from you. It is such a pleasure to hear how we are helping you with the things that we talk about on the show here throughout the last few years. Please continue to let us know of topics or guests you'd like for us to have on the show. We're here to help you improve your quality of life, and it's a real privilege to be able to hear from you and talk about some of the things that are on your mind as to what you'd like to hear from us. So please call or text us anytime 24/7. Our radio show phone is 612-999-3426. Once again, 612-999-3426. We look forward to hearing from you. Now, we are adding new listeners to the show each week, not only here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, but also throughout the country. So I want to mention the purpose of this show is to bring you specialists and experts, and most importantly, people with a passion for helping others by helping provide advice and recommendations on how to navigate the challenges of managing both you and your family's health and quality of life. We also have a special focus on our aging population and to help their caregivers improve the quality of life of our seniors. So there's many stages that go on in a person's life, and we are here to help you migrate and go through those stages as as well as possible. And you can find, oh, by the way, you can find all of our recordings of all of our shows on the AM 950 radio station homepage by simply clicking the on-demand button and then clicking on our show logo, Living Healthy and Aging Well. You can also find us on Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, and you can also listen to us digitally on TuneIn. So if you can't get to the radio station, TuneIn is a great option that people have found the way to get a hold of us and listen to us. Okay, now you have two ways to get your questions answered today. As you know, first, you can just ask your question live on the air by calling the radio station. And the radio station's number is 952-946-6205. Once again, 952-946-6205. Or you can directly text us your questions here during the show at 612-999-3426. So we are looking forward to answering your questions today. And this is a topic I was really excited when I got a hold of Rich and we talked about getting a show here. He was on earlier this year, right before we went into the distance learning mode. And so I really wanted Rich to come back here as we are now going to continue on in this distance learning mode program, not only here in the Twin Cities, but across the country. And it seems like every school district has their own approach to how they're going to do this. And I know with the school district that my children are in Lakeville, there's 3 different options that parents can take advantage of. So it's a confusing time for parents. It's a confusing time for children. And we're going to talk through maybe some of the ways we can help to improve that distance learning experience with both the children and the parents. Mm-hmm. So anyway, joining me today in the main studio here at AM 950 is Rich Frieder. He's the owner of Learning RX, and Rich's learning programs help both children and adults improve focus, memory, and recall for school and work. And we'll be talking today about ways to get the most out of distance learning, and also exploring the root cause as to why some children excel academically and while others struggle. Welcome back to the show, Rich.
Good to be here, Ken. Yeah, a few things have happened since I was here.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm not sure if was it the reason these things all went to heck is because of you. No, we just had that. Yours was the first show actually when all of a sudden the lockdown happened, and I thought I'll never forget that show as we thought, what in the world's going on here? But we've survived those last 6 months, and here we are starting another school year. But before we get into some of these tips and ideas and things we want to talk about, the audience loves to hear a little bit about my guests. And so if you could give us a bit of your background and
Sure.
and then why you decided to open up these Learning RX centers here in the Twin Cities.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking. Yeah, my wife and I have lived in Minnesota for about 30 years, and I have 3 daughters. They're now 29, 27, and 19. So the reason my wife and I opened the centers is my 2 oldest girls did great in school. They're out of college, supporting themselves, no real struggles. My wife and I are like, this is great. My youngest daughter, Katie, she's now 19, great girl. But at age 6, she was diagnosed with ADHD, processing delays, and sensory issues. We were told to go down the traditional route in helping her, which was ADHD medication and also an IEP in the classroom, which is kind of an extra help to kind of aid kids to get through. We weren't excited about it, but it was really the only option we were given. And we tried 3-4 different types of medication. And this isn't true for every child, but for my daughter, they all made her crabby, moody, dropped her appetite. Mm-hmm. She just wasn't the same kid. And we're like, there's got to be another way to handle this. And then the IEP would help her, like she could do her work in the hall where it was quiet, or she had more time to do her work, which helped her get through school. But after a while, my wife and I realized at some point she has to cope. And we don't get an IEP in life. You have to be able to handle it. So that's where that's why we decided to open the centers. Is our training has helped her get off medication. She loves reading now. She's a super smart girl. And really exciting is last week she started her college career, which, back when she was 6 or 7 or, and struggling in these areas, we're like, well, maybe that's not the path for her. So, and since then, and we've been open 12 years and we've helped so many families who have had similar struggles with attention or reading or just other academic issues. So, yeah. So that's our background. And we love what we do. Yeah. We've worked with now over almost 2,000 clients in the centers that I have in Eagan, Savage, and Woodbury, and it's just been a huge blessing.
Wow. Well, that's great. I love owner-operators that have see a need or have a need, and they figure out a way to get it done themselves. And then by doing that, though, they end up serving
That's helping others.
Other people.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the beauties of America is that you have the ability to just do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah, we are blessed that way.
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we've got about just a few seconds left here in the first segment. When we get back from the first break here, we are going to talk about some ideas, some tips to help people before they even get into the distance learning program, which is going to be kicking in here in a week or two for most school districts. But we'll when we get back, we'll talk about some of those things. And again, if you have any questions, folks, for Rich, please give us a call, 952-946-6205. We'll be right back after a short break. We got Rich Frieder he's the owner of Learning RX here in the Twin Cities. He has 3 locations. And we are talking today about ways to get the most out of distance learning and also exploring the root cause as to why some children excel academically and others struggle. So please get your questions ready for when we return. And you can call us at 952-946-6205 or text us at 612-999-3426. You are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well. I'm Ken Hageland. Please stay with us.
Com.
Folks, welcome back. You are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about your health and your life and ways to improve your quality of life. My name is Ken Hageland, and joining me today is Rich Frieder. He is the owner of Learning RX. He has three locations here in the Twin Cities, and we are talking today about ways to get the most out of distance learning, since all of our kids are going to be dealing with that here, certainly in the near term. And we also want to explore the root causes as to why some children excel academically while others struggle. So if you have a question for Rich, please get your question in soon here. Before you know it, the show will be over, and then you'll give me a call after the show. I can't help you then. But anyway, you can reach us at 952-946-6205, or you can text us your question at 612-999-3426. Before we return to our conversation with Rich, I want to mention this radio program is brought to you in part each week by the fabulous team at Minnesota Hospice. Now, Minnesota Hospice is an independent, physician-owned medical practice serving our local communities here in the Twin Cities with innovative and comprehensive end-of-life health care. If you have any questions regarding end-of-life care or support, you owe it to yourself to contact the compassionate team of experts at Minnesota Hospice. Their phone number is 952-898-1022. Once again, that number is 952-898-1022. And if you call that number during the weekend, you're going to get one of their nurses. The nursing teams there answer the phones 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you've always got somebody there to help you if you need help with end-of-life care. You can also learn more about Minnesota Hospice by visiting them online at minnesotahospice.com, minnesotahospice.com. And remember, folks, if your loved one is on Medicare, all of the services that hospice provides is already paid for. There's no cost to you or your family for hospice care. So whether it's the clinical visits or it's the medications, it's the equipment they need, all of that's taken care of, and it's already been prepaid by Medicare. So don't hesitate to call Minnesota Hospice if you have any questions about needing some help in navigating through end-of-life care for someone that you love. All right. Let's get back to our conversation with Rich. Rich and I are talking off the air here about the last 6 months and how the COVID-19 has disrupted the routines of everybody here in the Twin Cities and across the country and across the world. And a lot of the parents that I talk to that have children in school like I do are just struggling with just lack of a routine, the uncertainty of what's going to come up here in the fall. And Rich, I know that you've been talking to people as well. You've been around here for 12 years helping children improve their academics and helping adults as well improve their ability to perform at work. What are the things that you're hearing that people are struggling with as they look at this next school year that's right before us?
Well, you're right, Ken, in that it's the structure. It's being pulled in so many different directions. I mean, today, parents now, with kids doing distance learning, you have to be mom or dad, but you're also school nurse, PE teacher, lunch lady, teacher, and sometimes principal, right? So what I want to talk about here is things you can do right now, assuming that you haven't actually started distance learning. Most schools start, after Labor Day. And then during distance learning, what are some ways you can get the most out of the day? So things that you can start on now, one is, just from a technology standpoint, make sure your Wi-Fi is strong. I mean, or you have a mobile hotspot, that can be an inexpensive way to get that. But, if you don't have a laptop that works very well, that's just going to add to the frustration of it. So just take the step to make sure you have that. The other, it would be start to reestablish sleep schedules. Obviously in the summer, every summer, kids get more free time. They're sleeping in, things like that. Get their screen time habits back on track. Again, more time during the day, especially with this last summer where like most sports were even canceled, and a lot of kids were spending tons of time on screens. And so you've got to start getting them into different schedules because they're not going to have the same amount of time. And then to that, start gathering ideas for non-screen activities for the breaks during the day when you are doing distance learning. Because during breaks, you don't want to just be sitting on the screen again. Do Legos, have a picnic in your front yard, cook something together, draw. I have my son-in-law created a really fun obstacle course for his kids in his backyard. Things like that. There's a lot of ideas, but think about that now, because in the moment it might be hard to come up with those. And then the other things beforehand, set a schedule, and especially for young kids, giving them a visual schedule can be very helpful where they can actually see what's happening during the day and create a space for them. Make it fun and include them in creating the space. So it's kind of their space. And it's a consistent space where when I'm here, I'm doing distance learning. And then I would say lastly, talk to your kids about how they're feeling about the new school year and distance learning. There's a lot of anxiety, not just parents, obviously, but a lot of kids have anxiety. And I think being open, honest about that, knowing what's going on with your child will really help. And you can address some of those issues. And then during the school day, right, so we're going to be starting here in a few weeks, encourage physical exercise. Again, a lot of sitting. We don't have recess. They don't have PE. So encourage physical exercise when they're not in school. Get a schedule you can all agree to, and especially for those older students where, they've got to track their, what's due, all of that. If you can agree on a schedule ahead of time, then you can be more supportive versus what I heard from so many parents this last spring was they just feel like they're constantly nagging their child. Mm-hmm. And the child doesn't like that. We as parents don't like that, but we feel we need to do it. And being proactive with a schedule can help because you're going to stick to it. The other is that there's a lot of feedback that a lot of parents didn't feel they got the support from teachers they needed. And that's partly because teachers are also overwhelmed. They're trying to, all of a sudden switch to this model. But be proactive and ask teachers for, what are your expectations? What are your goals? Request more support if you don't feel like you're getting it, because they're getting pulled many different ways. Then during the school day, take breaks. Especially those kids who struggle with attention issues, they need mental breaks because they just get overwhelmed if too much school is coming at them. To that, keep other devices out of, kind of out of arm's reach. Remote controls, iPads, phones. I mean, those are huge temptations. They're temptations for us as adults, and right. Especially for kids. So don't create more distractions. And then lastly, try to stay as positive as you can. Find the things your kids are doing well and praise them for it. And lastly, take care of yourself. Yeah. Because, make sure that you are getting time with your spouse, by yourself, recharging your own batteries, things like that. Because if you're not in a good place, I know how it is when I'm crabby and then I come home and have homework to do with my child. And if my child's not getting it, then guess what? I don't handle that as well.
You have a short fuse.
Yeah, my fuse is short, and that just changes the whole dynamic of the household. So take care of yourself as well.
All right, Rich, those are great tips, and we'll talk more about that here in the next segment as well. But it's time for a short break, folks. We'll be right back to continue our conversation with Rich Frieder, the owner of Learning RX, and we're talking about ways to get the most out of distance learning and also exploring the root causes to why some children excel academically while others do not. Please give us a call, 952-946-6205. You are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about your health and your life and how to improve the quality of your life. My name is Ken Haglund, and joining me today is Rich Frieder. He is the owner of Learning RX, and he has 3 brain training centers here in the Twin Cities. We are talking today about ways to get the most out of distance learning. And also, in fact, this segment here, we're going to focus on exploring some of the root causes as to why some children excel academically and while some others don't. So it's a very important segment. So be sure and tune in here. And also, if you have any questions for Rich, this is a real opportunity here to talk with somebody who has spent the last 12 years of his life helping thousands of other families with the improvement of their child's learning abilities. And so if you have any questions, please give us a call, 952-946-6205. Once again, 952-946-6205. Or you can just text us your question at 612-999-3426. All right, before we return to our conversation with Rich, I do want to mention that one of our show partners here is NeighborCare, and that's a program offered by Episcopal Homes. If there's someone you know who is struggling to maintain living independently or is considering a move to an assisted living community, please call NeighborCare first. NeighborCare is a new kind of in-home support service that's more affordable than traditional home care providers. This new innovative home care service is designed to help older adults remain independent by making in-home support services more affordable and accessible. The care professionals with NeighborCare can help with daily tasks in much smaller time increments, even come back multiple times each day as needed. Now, this unique program is being offered by Episcopal Homes from St. Paul, and they've been helping serve the Twin Cities for over 125 years. And they understand the importance of a safe and supportive home environment. NeighborCare is currently providing services near the Episcopal Homes coverage area within the urban core of St. Paul. So for more information on how you can maybe help your loved one with staying home and staying independent and providing some safe, secure care, give Karen Vento a call at 651-444-4000. Once again, Karen Vento at Episcopal Homes at 651-444-4000. All right. So, Rich, we've been talking about distance learning issues here, and I want to make sure people know how to get a hold of you and your organization if they have more questions or want more information.
Yeah, so the easiest would be a couple ways. One is give us a call at 952-226-1115. We will then be able to get you to the location nearest to you. The other is learningrx.com. There's a lot of information on us, how our programs work, the research and data behind our programs. So that's a great resource also to just research what we do and how we help.
And yes, it's a great resource. The website, I would encourage you folks to check out the website, learningrx.com. And there you can learn a lot about what they do, and also get a chance to see what Rich looks like here.
You don't want him to do that.
if you're not watching us live on Facebook, you can look at Rich's website there. So, and again, you have offices in Woodbury, Egan, and Savage.
Yeah.
So really,
Yep.
it covers a lot.
Then
wide
across
area.
the north side too, Eden Prairie, Maple Grove.
Oh, yeah, that's right, on the
Shoreview.
north side as well.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, great. All right, well, last segment we were talking about some of the tips and advice to help prepare children for the distance learning curriculum that we're going to be dealing with here in the fall. But I know you have a place in your heart for children that are struggling. And that's one of the reasons why you got into this business with your own child. Tell us a little bit about what some of the things are that causes children to struggle maybe academically.
Yeah, and the tough thing is that if kids were already struggling, the distance learning really just exacerbates that.
Yeah.
So they're the group that is much more at risk. So usually if a child is struggling with learning or distance learning, it can show up as struggling to be independent, right? I mean, the complaint I'm hearing from parents is, I need to be sitting by my child the entire school day, right?
Right.
There's a lot of different ways that can show up, Ken. So, but just to give kind of an overview, at LearningRx, what we're doing is we're actually addressing the root cause. So what I mean by that is we're called a brain training center or a cognitive skills training center. So usually if kids are struggling, the approach is tutoring, kind of more academic content, right? That's not what we do. We're addressing the root cause by identifying why a child struggles and training then to strengthen that skill. So we train the cognitive skills like attention, memory, processing, logic, visual and auditory processing, the skills that make up your IQ, because if any of those skills aren't as strong as they need to be, it makes school hard. So for example, I hear all the time, my child cannot stay on task, which means that the parent has to sit next to them the whole time. Be it attention issues or diagnosed as ADHD. That's an area that we really help with. And what we find is that the root cause of a lot of those struggles, in fact, we were just published in the Journal of Mental Health and Clinical Psychology, which I'm sure everybody here reads. But it shows that when someone has an attention issue, usually there's skills like processing speed being a culprit or working memory that are causing or at least contributing to the issue. So my daughter is a great example of that, Katie, who I just discussed. Her processing speed wasn't strong. And so what would happen is there'd be information coming at her. She has to work so hard mentally to keep up that she can't sustain her focus as long and therefore zones out, gets easily distracted. And that's why we get significant gains with attention, is we're addressing the root cause. So that's a huge issue. A lot of kids struggle with reading. And so therefore, the parent has to sit and read the instructions to them, read the content to them or with them. Almost always the root cause of reading struggles is a combination of low memory and low auditory processing. So the reason memory is so important is that 60% of our language is non-phonetic words, like laugh, right? Well, how do you know laugh's L-A-G-H? The answer is, I don't know. You just have to remember. And like sight words, there and was and can. And if kids don't have, or adults for that matter, don't have strong memory, that word recognition is lacking. And auditory processing is the phonetic skill to actually blend. So we average over a 3-year gain in reading achievement because we address the root cause and remove the obstacles. Same with reading comprehension. That can be a struggle. Or kids who just really struggle to follow along with the directions. If you as a parent tell your child, I need you to go brush your teeth, put your laundry away in your drawer, and pick up your Legos. If working memory is not strong, that's not going to happen. Well, how that shows up academically is the teacher says, do these 3 things. They're not following along. Math instructions that are multiple step, they're making careless mistakes and struggling. The other issue I hear a lot about is having a hard time staying organized. So therefore they are, they struggle with organizational skill, which is typically logic. Also working memory, which is your ability to think, like to hold your thoughts. And it makes it really hard to be organized if you can't hold your thoughts. Like think of working memories, the Post-it notes on your brain, holding the information there. Well, we work with tons of really bright kids, but if you can't hold your thoughts, things fall through the cracks. So it's like, oh, I thought I turned that assignment in. I didn't even know that assignment was due. I don't think the teacher ever said that. You hear all those kinds of things. And then all of this then often manifests in an emotional way. So meaning we almost always see kids who have lower cognitive skills struggle with motivation. The reason for that is it means that for them, school is really hard. It's hard to read. It's hard to stay on task. And so human nature is to avoid things that are hard, right? And so I hear all the time from parents, well, my child is smart. They just need to try harder. And there's truth to that, but there's an underlying reason the child struggles in the first place and doesn't want to get up and do distance learning, and it's because it's hard. And what we hear is when I meet with families, most kids that I meet with you can tell they want to do well. In fact, many of them start the school year like, really, this is going to be different. And then by October, they're behind, missed assignments, they get discouraged and overwhelmed. So most want to do well, but if these skills aren't strong, when it comes time to actually do the work, they're like, I procrastinate, put it off. And that's where you get the nagging from mom and dad, and it's just a lot of conflict. But a lot of battles with motivation and getting the work done. So if any of these cognitive skills aren't strong, that's what needs to be addressed. And if what happens is if we just sort of do tutoring and more school, it doesn't hurt, but the issue's never being addressed. And so guess what? Next year, when school's even harder, the issues persist. And so that's my passion, is to identify the root cause, and we have an assessment we administer to do that. And then more importantly, what do we do to overcome it and improve the skills? And that's whether someone is diagnosed with ADHD, dyslexia, autism, a brain injury, or just isn't diagnosed, just has a general struggle. What matters is how do we actually overcome the issue? And typically it's through improving the skills that are weak, that are holding the child back.
So the way the process would work, if a parent is interested in this, is that they would call your organization and set up a time for an assessment.
Exactly.
So you guys, now they don't need to have a diagnosis of ADHD or a doctor's determination of where their child's at. They can just say, we're all unhappy about what's either happened or what's going to happen. I just feel so bad for families, parents and children right now that are struggling a bit because they're going into an environment which is going to be even more difficult.
Well, yeah, and I would say, Ken, so much of the struggle is as a parent figuring out why.
Yeah.
Right? So the assessment we administered, it's a standardized assessment called the Woodcock-Johnson for Cognitive Abilities Battery. Neurologists, psychologists, school systems use it. And I have met with so many families. So you have the assessment, and then I would meet with that family to walk through the results and just understand what's happening. And whether someone goes forward with us or not, they leave that meeting with like, now I understand why my child struggles, which is half the battle.
Right.
Because we often just assume, well, they're not trying hard enough. They don't care enough. And that ultimately can happen, but there's an underlying driver. And if you were to look at like the reviews we have online, almost all of them talk about improved motivation, ability to persist through harder tasks, because we're getting to the root of what's causing those issues. And so, yeah, and it's a great time to do it at the start of the school year.
I was going to say, now is the time to do it. Now, unfortunately, we couldn't get you on earlier, but during the schedule here. But no, this is the time to get that done. And I know I've talked to parents who have learned more about, they've identified some learning challenge that their child had, and then when they understand the limitation that the child had at the time, they really feel bad that they get pushed, punished, all the different things, thinking that they're not motivated, when in fact they're struggling to get to the point where they can be motivated.
Right.
So
right.
that, So how long does an assessment take? I mean, if a child were to be scheduled, how long does that take to have the assessment done?
So the assessment takes between an hour to an hour and a half.
Okay.
So not long.
No.
It's right now it's being done in person.
Okay.
Although we do have remote options for families if they're not comfortable with that. And then a day or two later, or whenever I'm free and the family's free, we meet for another hour or so and really dive deep into, I want to understand what's happening with the child, because assessments don't tell the whole story, and walk through the assessment, and from there can say, here's why your child's struggling, and here's what we can do about it if you choose to do that.
Fantastic. We're going to continue our conversation with Rich Frieder. He is the owner of Learning RX here in the Twin Cities, and we're talking about ways to get the most out of distance learning and also exploring the root causes as to why some children excel academically and some do not. So you are listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well. Please stay with us. Listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about your health and your life, and most importantly, how to improve the quality of your life. My name is Ken Haglund, and joining me today here in the main studio of AM 950 is Rich Frieder. He is the owner of Learning RX here in the Twin Cities, and we've been talking about ways to get the most out of distance learning and also exploring the root cause as to why some children do well and some maybe don't do well. And we're learning more about some of the ways that the parents can help their children really improve their academic performance. If you have any questions, this is the last segment, folks. You got to give us a call, 952-946-6205, or you can text us your question at 612-999-3426. All right, Rich, let's get back into the conversation here. But before we do, remind our listeners how they can get a hold of you if they have more questions or want more information.
Okay. Yeah, so you can give us a call at 952-226-1115. Or look us up on learningrx.com. The others, if you wanted to email me directly, I'm fine with that. My email is really easy. It's rich, R-I-C-H, at learningrx.net. Not .com, .net. So rich at learningrx.net.
All right, fantastic. All right, well, we've been talking about tips for parents to help with getting a good routine, a good environment, a lot of just really practical things here to get them prepared for this, again, unique distance learning world that we find ourselves in. And also some of the reasons that children may struggle in various aspects of the academic area, both in-person learning, but also distance learning. So the problems that they may have will affect both, or maybe be more exacerbated in a distance learning environment.
Definitely. It's harder. It's definitely harder in distance learning.
Well, let's talk about in the last segment here about assessments, how, what people need to do that, and maybe some examples of some of the clients that you have helped.
Yeah.
And is this something that works for maybe 3 months and then you got to do it again, or there's some great things that you need to get out there so people understand how valuable this program is.
So so as far as the assessment, if your callers call our center, and I gave 952-226-1115, and reach us and mention AM 950. The assessment we administer is usually $199. We'll actually do that for $59, and that includes the follow-up consult.
That's great.
So make sure to mention AM 950 when you call. The other thing, too, Ken, is our training's all one-on-one, ideally with the same trainer. Right now we are doing, parents have 3 options for how to do training. They can do all in person, and we're doing all the social distancing. We have plexiglass screens between trainer and student. We're obviously wearing masks. Really strict protocols in how we're handling that. Our staff has to sign in to say they're symptom-free, all of that. So you can do it all in person. You can do it all remote via Zoom. And that's it's not like, it's still live one-on-one. So it's not like a program, you're actually live. And then, or you can do a combination. So a session or 2 remote or in person, either way. And it's totally up to the family. And as far as those we've helped, what's really fun right now is we've been open, like I said, 12 years. And there are individuals we helped when they were really young who are now in or out of college. Right. And one of the biggest benefits of our training is the gains stay with our students. So we do the assessment I mentioned up front to identify the issue. We do the assessment at the end of training programs to show the improvement. And then we do an assessment a year after our clients complete the program. And we have a 98% retention rate. And it's because we're changing the way the brain is functioning. In fact, we were published in the Journal of Neuroimaging recently because in all of our research, we now do functional MRIs where you can see the changes in the brain before training programs and after. And that can be very dramatic. But what's really exciting about that, why we were published, is because it's showing you we're changing the function and structure of the brain and making it faster, more efficient, stronger. And why that's important is after training, as long as there's not a concussion or something like that, the gains stay with you. So a couple of great examples of like the types of individuals we work with. One individual, his name was Killian, came to us his sophomore year. Was diagnosed at ADHD at an early age, and his parents had tried everything. They had tried tutoring, medication. He was also now getting detentions for not getting homework turned in, so they were trying the stick method. He's a great kid. He came to us his sophomore year. After he completed our program, he earned an academic letter, which was huge, and he graduated a year ago from the University of Minnesota with an architecture degree, and he's working in the Twin Cities with an architectural firm. And his mom was like, college, that wasn't even in my mind at the time. So really turned him around. Another, her name is Elle, so she came to us in 2nd, 3rd grade because of reading issues. Great kid, but she just could not read. And And her mom tells the story that they tried a lot of school interventions. They tried outside tutoring again. And the issue with those is they can help, but none of it's identifying or removing the obstacle to why Elle was struggling with reading in the first place. So we did the assessment. We're able to identify it was because of weaknesses in auditory processing, memory, and visual processing. Those are the obstacles. She went through a program, and the next fall, when she was tested, her reading level went up 4 grade levels. A huge jump.
Wow.
She's now at St. Olaf, and again, her mom is like, there's no way that would have happened. So what I love about what we do is we can absolutely change the trajectory of a child or an adult for that matter's life. I mean, last time I was here, I talked about how we help adults and seniors who have had concussions and injuries and those types of things. So, and like this summer, I received a invitation to an open house for a student we worked with named Noah. Noah came to us in 2nd grade. He's now 6'6". He came to us because he was diagnosed on the autism spectrum, PDD, NOS, and had ADHD. So significant struggles. Wow. We worked with him, and his mom invited us to his graduation open house because she said he has excelled in school. He was on the varsity basketball team, finished his senior year with straight A's, applied to 7 colleges and was accepted to all of them, and decided to go to St. Thomas.
Wow.
And she said LearningRx absolutely gave him the foundation and the confidence to be able to do that.
Wow.
So it's just it's really satisfying work. And I would say, honestly, for $59, even just to find out what's happening for a child or a grandchild, if you're a grandparent listening, it's an investment that pays huge dividends.
Yeah, a great gift for the child as well. All right. Rich, doggone it, we are out of time again.
Goes quickly, Ken.
I know. Every time we get together, we got to have another show here. Well, let's do that. Let's get you back on the schedule here because I know I'm going to get calls after the show from parents, and they're going to say, "Oh, I missed the show," or "I had this question." But anyway, Rich, give us one more time how to get a hold of you if they have more questions or more information.
Yeah. So give us a call at the phone number is 952-226-1115. You can look us up on learningrx.com and contact us through the website, or you can certainly email me directly at Rich, and that's just RICH, at learningrx, all one word, learningrx.net, N-E-T. And I'd love to answer any questions you have or help you set that assessment up.
That's right. And he is the nicest guy. You would love to meet Rich. All right. We hope you enjoyed today's show, folks. Please join us again next Saturday at noon for another live broadcast. And thank you for listening to Living Healthy and Aging Well, where we talk about your health and your life. Until next time, live well.